Okay, so here we have Kasim's breakdown and disappearance, which is really his last major appearance in the narrative for now. And again, I really wish we could have fit some more foreshadowing of this into the previous mission. We did everything we could, but right up into the last couple weeks of development, we were trying to foreshadow that a little better. And so here we are moving on to the climax of Act 1, this huge attack on Earth, which is going to have very serious repercussions. And Darkest Hour actually does go back to the War in Heaven Alpha. This mission was present there. It was previewed in one of the earliest War in Heaven trailers, where it looked great. And the Alpha, this was actually a less significant victory for the Alliance, and we decided we really did want to make it the Federation's darkest hour in many respects, at least for now. And so we upped the intensity. We wanted there to be some lost assets, so we threw in Athens and Malta here, which are visible in the background, getting taken out by other Tev warships at various points in the mission. Those are both references to Halo 2. Where there are a couple sacrificial stations that get blown up by an enemy attack while you're defending a third one. So one of our big design objectives for this mission was just to do this grinding, rolling battle where you really saw your wingmen getting chewed apart, and you felt that all these squadrons were getting thrown in on both sides and just shredded. And I think in that sense the mission succeeded, but it was a massive challenge. We put a huge amount of work into this mission to get it right. When we betaed it, the subspace missile strikes hadn't even been introduced. The mission used a sort of monster closet concept where the AWACS would call on waves of bombers, and destroying the AWACS would cause those bombers to stop. So here we're moving into gameplay, and the opening skirmish, you get right into the action. One of our best changes in this mission, I think, was moving the player's start point closer, which means players can get engaged right away. I'm more and more convinced that one of the most important things you can do in a mission is just get the player into the fight right off. So Quantum Delta, of course, is being Quantum Delta, going right for the Corvette here, which has the interesting consequence of allowing him to save the Vatican. And if you can save the Vatican in this mission, it does a lot of very helpful things. It doesn't always get lost, but taking out these beams will help. And you can see the Earth skybox there. Right, there's a great shot. And I actually want to turn this over to HerraTohtori to talk a bit about the design of that skybox and its strengths and weaknesses. So, Herra.
Alright, so the skybox was born for the Age of Aquarius. It was designed for the Lucifer cutscene, and it is using the same skybox here. And it is starting to be a bit more antiquated, because the texture resolution that I could use and the position of the camera was very close to the Earth, so there are some blurry spots right below you. If you look carefully, you can see them. And the textures are from NASA's Blue Marble project, and that the model itself is William Chamberlain's Earth tutorial for Blender. Look it up on Google if you want.
And we were actually originally using a skybox from the Babylon project, but we had to pull that because the Babylon project doesn't really let other people use its assets. And one thing you should notice about this is the city lights on the dark side. And Herra actually did a huge amount of work, as he always does, to line those up with actual population centers and then extrapolated population growth into the future and where he thought new cities might be. So here we have a trebuchet strike coming in from the top. This was a fairly late addition to the mission because I felt that the friendly wings weren't being degraded enough. There's actually, this being a very critical asset, there's a huge amount of firepower thrown into the defense of Rheza Station. And a large amount thrown into attacking it. You can see these Artemises coming in here. One question that you brought up was, we talked before about our philosophy regarding bombers and how much we don't like them. And do you want to talk a bit about how, if bombers suck so much, how we handle them and why we're using Artemises in particular?
Well, I think the reason why we're so fond of the Artemis is that compared to the heavier bombers like the Ursa or the Boanerges, The Artemis is very maneuverable. It's very fast, and it does carry. It's able to carry. Yeah, well, not really respectable, but um, it carries a primary weapons load that is still respectable. You can put maxims on them, and using them as maxim bombers really ups the ante in some missions. I think we've seen that in the first mission, where a wing of Maxim carrying Artemises attacks the convoy. Um, I do not know exactly how much thought went into it on your part as a mission designer. Um, from a
Quite a
player's
bit.
point of view, from a player's point of view, I liked it very much because it told me that the Alliance came to realize that the heavy bombers, which were very effective against Shivans, were not quite as effective against an enemy that actually shoots back when bombed. Back to you.
Yeah, and yeah, you can actually see a Boanerges just jumped away from Quantum Delta there, and those Boanerges are some of the very few heavy bombers we use in this campaign, and those guys are actually armored. Both their shields and their hull are thickened or hardened via event because they just weren't tough enough. We'd rather use fewer, tougher ships than a large, like a Zerg swarm of really bad, ineffective bombers, because the Boanerges just can't dodge. So here, Quantum Delta is mopping up the Subspace missile strike. I want to talk a bit about that. We're lagging a bit behind the gameplay here. That was a very late addition to the mission because we didn't like throwing in more bombers. It's an alternate way to threaten the station. And the way this is actually accomplished is each AWACS is connected to an event that spawns Tag C missiles very close to the station. Those missiles hit it and give the illusion that the AWACS themselves are calling in the Subspace missile strikes. And I want to credit Snail for not that technique, but for Subspace missiles.